Good morning. My name is Chris Johnson, and I'm here to give you a special report on the top 10 most important historical events since the Renaissance. Today, we will start off with the first American colony founded in Jamestown. We have a very interesting person here today. He was a blacksmith in the first American colony. Hello, Mr. Smith.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. My first question is, what was life like in 1607?
Well, it was a lot more peaceful and a lot less confusing, although life was harder back then.
Alright. My second question is, what is life like now compared to back then?
Well, now we have all these tools that do a lot for us, and back then we only had a certain amount of tools, and that was it.
That makes sense. Unfortunately, we have to move on to the next event. Sorry, John. Bye.
Bye.
Our next event is the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. We have Thomas Edison here to talk about it. Hello, Mr. Edison.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. What was it like signing the Declaration of Independence?
Well, I'm proud to help America gain independence.
That's a good reason. But that's the only question I have for you, so see ya. Next event is in 1903, when the Wright brothers made the first airplane. We have Orville Wright here with us to talk about it. Hello, Orville. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. My first question is, how did you make a plane fly through the air?
Well, we figured that if we could make it go fast enough, it would go up in the air. And if it stayed at around that same speed, it would stay flying up in the air.
That makes a lot of sense. But how did you keep it at such fast speeds?
Well, we hooked up the current car motors at the time, and we hooked them up to the propellers.
That's genius.
Yeah. It was my idea.
Okay. I'm afraid that's all the questions I have for you, Orville, so we're gonna have to move on.
Bye.
Bye. Our next event takes place through 4 years, 1914 to 1918. This is known as World War I, and we have a general here to talk about it. Hello, General Richmond.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Alright, my first question is, what was the war like?
Well, it was awful to see so many people die, and I can't get the image of my friends out of my head.
Why can't you get the image of your friends out of your head?
Because they all died in the war.
Oh, wow. I'm really sorry for your loss. I have another question, though, and it was, what time did you serve for the war?
So from the start of the war, it was about 1914 to about 1960, halfway through.
Alright. I'm pretty sure you meant 1916 instead of 1960. So,
yeah.
Sorry. Well, that's all the questions I have, General, so I'm going to move on.
Alright.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Our next event happens in 1929 when the stock market crashes and burns. Today we have Mr. Joe Johnson here to talk about it. Hello, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. My first question is, what was the life like during the Depression?
Well, it was like how life is now, except the middle and lower classes had less money.
I can see that. My next question is, how was the money established back then?
Well, the rich were rich, the middle class were poor, and the lower classes were, they pretty much had no money at all.
Alright, well, that's all the questions I have for you, Mr. Joe Johnson, so, see ya.
Right, bye.
Alright, our next event takes place on December 7th, 1941, when Japanese air fleet bombed a Hawaiian coast named Pearl Harbor. We have an officer here to talk about it and what he experienced that day. Hello, Officer Doyle. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My first question is, what was it like witnessing a horrific attack like that?
Well, when it first happened, I really couldn't believe that it just happened. And I just started helping everywhere I could.
I mean, how could you help?
I tried to help getting people away from the boats.
Yeah, I guess you really couldn't do that much more, huh? Well, that's all the questions I have for you, sir, so Gotta move on to the next event. Sorry.
Bye.
See ya, sir. The next event takes place over 3 years, from 1942 to 1945. This is the duration of when the U.S. was involved in World War II, and we have an injured soldier here today to talk about his experiences. Hello, sir.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is George Peterson.
Nice to meet you, George Peterson. What happened to your eye?
A grenade fragment pierced my eye.
Oh, wow. When did that happen?
About 1943.
Did you ever go back into the war?
Yes, I did in 1944. I worked with other injured soldiers.
Wow. For the part where you weren't injured, what was the war like?
It was pretty chaotic, because I mean there was people dying everywhere, and you just didn't know what was going to happen next.
Well, that's all my questions, so I'm gonna have to move on.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Our next event happens in 1948 when Eastern Europe is attacked by communists. This attack shocked the whole world, and the U.S.'s immediate reaction was to try to contain the communism. Today we have an Eastern European man here to talk about his experiences. How are you doing, Mr. Schmidt?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Alright, my first question is, what was it like for a way of life to be forced upon you?
Well, people who opposed communism were killed, and people who went with it were forced to do intense labor.
Wow, that would be bad. I'm guessing you had to do intense labor since you're still living with us.
Well, I ran away as a kid, and I never saw my family again.
Wow, that's depressing. Well, I don't have any more questions for you, so we're gonna have to move on.
Okay, bye.
Sorry, Mr. Schmidt. Our next event happens in 1969, and it was the first ever lunar landing. And for that, we have Neil Armstrong here today. Hello, Mr. Armstrong. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. My first question is kind of obvious. What was it like on the moon?
Well, it was really cool. It was like a beach without any water.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the ground was white and sandy. The low gravity was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. How much training did you have to go through to be able to be on the mission?
We went through a lot of training. It was mostly physical training, so we wouldn't get like tired up in space.
Alright, well, that's the only questions I have for you, Neil, so
Bye.
see ya. Next event takes place September 11th, 2001, when there was a terrorist attack in New York. This was one of the worst days ever for people in America, because it was just a devastating and horrific day. Today we have someone who wishes to talk about it, but also wishes to be kept anonymous. So here he is. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. What was it like witnessing this devastating attack?
Well, it was really weird because I was just walking down the street, and all of a sudden I heard a loud crash, and I looked up and I saw that a plane had crashed into one of the World Trade Center towers.
Did you think it was an accident at first?
At first I thought it was an accident.
But then you saw the second plane crash into the other one.
And that's when, well, pretty much everybody knew it was on purpose.
Yeah. Did you have any friends or family in the towers?
I had like 3 or 4 friends, but no family.
Did all of your friends make it out?
About 2 of them made it out, and 2 were still in there when the tower collapsed.
Were your 2 friends injured, or were they perfectly fine?
They were injured.
Alright, well, thank you for your insight on the Twin Tower attack, and this has been a special American broadcast of history. Thank you for watching.